Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. This is our first meeting of 2026. It's kind of exciting. We've been planning this for a while, so it's good to see you all here. Gold Timers is fortunate to be sponsored by Busey Bank and Direct Travel, and I'm going to turn the mic over to them so that they can say a couple of things, and then Leanne Pesch will be introducing our speaker.
Morning, everybody. It's good to see everyone, as always. Appreciate it. So again, I was talking to Larry Phillips about this as he's walking in, but we've done this for a number of years, and being able to recognize a lot of the faces coming in, it feels really good. So as always, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to thank the committee, like we do every time. They've worked really hard to put together this program and make sure everything goes well in the organization. So if we could just give them a round of applause, I'd appreciate that. Big thank you to my team as well. Also to Direct Travel. I know, great sponsor, worked, years together now in this perspective, but thank you to my team. So Catherine Wills is back there, Taylor Morgan, Jessica Cruz, Emily Leitz, Matt Lage, numerous others. But again, it does take some effort and time to put all this stuff together. So thank you to them as well. So just a couple quick updates. So again, for this group in particular, we don't broadly advertise this, but everybody that's a Gold Timer does qualify for private client with us at the bank. And so that's concierge service that's run by Catherine Wills. I know some of you have taken advantage of that. We appreciate that. But if anybody is interested in those services, that can be found at goldtimers.org or reach out to us directly if you would like to learn more about that. We're still offering two other free services for the group. So that's an investment analysis. So that's kind of like a deep dive into your existing portfolio, doing a side-by-side, looking at risk, those kind of things. But then also a retirement plan forecast, which is more, I guess, holistic and looking at asset allocation, basically a balance sheet, right, for where you're currently at from a financial perspective. And so, again, that information can be found at goldtimers.org, and there's a Busey website as well, but please reach out to us directly if you have any questions on that. Still offering, again, still opportunity to earn a decent interest on money markets and CDs, and so there's some stuff in the promotional packets about that if you have any interest from that perspective. We continue to do the workshops too, so those are separate from the quarterly meetings. We put those on virtually. We just had one recently, but that's, on different, financial planning topics, economics, so on and so forth. Our next one coming up is going to be April 23rd. It's called The Fundamentals of Estate Planning. And so that link can be found at goldtimers.org if you want to go ahead and register for that. So please do if you'd like to learn more. Had a great show out, turnout for our last one. So thank you for those of you that attended. That's about all I have for today. Again, goldtimers.org, busey.com/goldtimers for more information. Looking forward to the presentation as well. Excited about that. So as always, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon, I guess, right? Thanks.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Just like Brett said, they always make me go after him, and he does such a good job. My name is Kimberly Rowett, and I'm with the group department at Direct Travel. We are excited, or I'm excited to share some incredible new group trips with you that I have planned for 27. I've been working hard the last couple months getting those planned. But before we get into those, I'm just going to highlight some of our 2026 trips that still have some limited availability. Starting off, we have a Douro and a Danube River cruise. So the Douro River, it's Portugal. It's a more relaxed, scenic experience, and it's also great if you're a wine lover. The Danube, it's going to start in Prague and end in Budapest and has some of Europe's most iconic cities that you're going to see. We do still have availability on some land tours. So if you're not a cruiser, the Utah Mighty 5, Iceland, America's 250th birthday celebration, and Montana are great programs. We do have a New Year's Eve celebration cruise. So I know it's a little like you're like, oh my gosh, it's spring, but then I have to plan for New Year's Eve. But it is going to be out of Miami, and you're going to go to St. Thomas, St. Martin, St. Bart's, St. Kitts, and Virgin Islands. So it'll be a nice cruise, nice and warm, and a great way to ring in the new year. Lastly, for 26, I have a new Costa Rica tour. So Costa Rica, you'll get to see the Reno volcano, Monteverde cloud forest, and the end with a couple relaxing days at the beach in Guanacaste. Looking ahead to 27, we have some really special experiences set for you. So an Aurora adventure taking place in the Canadian Rockies and the Yukon, a great place to see the Northern Lights. And you get to stay in the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise hotel, which I've stayed there, and it is absolutely stunning. We're doing a Japan cherry blossom voyage. It is spring of 27, and it's a fully guided. You'll get 2 days in Tokyo with an English-speaking guide, and then you'll get on a small luxury Azamara cruise and cruise around Japan and really see a lot of beautiful things there. Then we are going to go tropical. We're going to Tahiti on a yacht experience. We are also going to do a Nordic discovery, so Finland, Sweden, and Norway, and then it's mostly land, but there is a short 5-night cruise involved with that one. A little closer to home, we have a brand new Majestic, California, and you're going to get to see Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. And then lastly, we have a Grand Italian cruise. So you'll get to start in Venice on a full city tour, including the gondolas there. And then you're going to go to Croatia for a couple stops, Montenegro, and then back to Italy. You'll stop in Sicily, Amalfi Coast, Portofino, and Florence, and you're going to end in Rome, where we've allowed a couple extra days just so you can see all the beautiful and historical sites that Rome has to offer. So if any of these trips spark your interest, I'd love to chat with you. My contact information is in the trip summary that you picked up on your way in. And again, thank you for your time, and I hope that I can help you on your next adventure.
Hello, I'm Leanne Pesh, and I'd like to welcome you to today's meeting. I am the meeting planning coordinator. We're happy to have Anthony Nelson with us today. He is the Director of Arts and Entertainment for the City of Bloomington. He's also put in time at the Miller Park Zoo through Parks and Recreation before getting his current role at where he manages the BCPA and Grossinger Arena. Prior to working for the city, Anthony was the general manager at the Pheasant Lanes Family Fun Center. He studied at ISU and Lincoln College and has a degree in business administration. He's a huge sports fan. We're fellow Cub fans, and he loves coaching his kids. He's got married with 2 children, 8 and 13, and serves on Tri-Valley Summer League Board, as well as Toys for Tots of McLean County Bowl for Kids Board. I've known Anthony since he and his mom and I started working together 45 years ago or something like that, and he was born after that. So anyway, I'd like to welcome Anthony to our group, and I'm sure he'll have an interesting overview of his role and all the interesting stories about the 2 venues. So welcome, Anthony.
Mic on. Okay. Thanks a lot for having me to the group. And for anybody else in the room who had to work with my mom over the last 45 years, I'm sorry. Started with the city a little over 10 years ago, after coming over from Pheasant Lane, started as the business manager at the zoo, and then became business manager at Parks and Recreation. And then in 2022, the city decided, as opposed to outsourcing the management of the arena, to bring it in-house. The city already ran the theater. So the thought was, we could run it under one umbrella and save money and share staff. Same marketing person, same ticket, same box office person, et cetera. So we've been in the role for about 3.5 years. When I was at Parks and Recreation, the theater was under us. So that's kind of how I got my start. About a year before the role, we made some changes in leadership over at the theater, and thought, business is business. I understood theater, but there were some things that I thought we could do a better job if we, did a little more negotiation and didn't just book it to book it. So they kind of took an approach, let's have 3 dance shows, let's have 3 of these shows. And while we still try to get as many of each type of show into the theater in the arena each year, we only do it if it makes financial sense. We don't just book a dance show because, hey, we get a lot of emails saying we want more dance shows. Well, if you want more dance shows, we need more than 350 people to show up for them. So we kind of changed our approach and took a more fiscal look at it. Kind of a picture of our department. So as hopefully everybody in the room knows, we brought back a hockey team 2 years ago to the arena, the Bloomington Bison. But before we finished negotiations, the family, Hallett's, that own the company or own the business and own the Bison, also own the Indy Fuel and the ECHL. So we took a trip over with our staff to see kind of how they ran things, see how the business model worked in their building. So our staff, we got on one of the Parks and Rec buses. Another advantage of being city ran is we can borrow resources when we need to. But I didn't do a very good job of counting. I thought when it said 12 passengers, it meant we could actually have 12 passengers. That meant the driver too. So I'm like, I made the mistake. So I sat on an upside down garbage can for 2.5 hours there and back, since I was the one who chose not to be able to count how many seats we were going to have. Went over there. I'd met with the family about 4 times before the trip. Went over there and saw how they did things. And I thought they completely understood what the other hockey ownership groups were missing here in Bloomington, is that while we do have a good hockey base in Bloomington, you're going to have to attract people who aren't hockey fans to the building. And their whole business model was built on family entertainment, creating an experience when you come there. So even if you don't understand what icing or offside is, you can still go there and have a great time. My daughter could care less who wins the game. She cares, where's the mascot? She likes when the fire goes off, when the players get introduced, and she wants to be entertained in between whistles. So after meeting with them, we entered into the agreement and brought them here. They're in year 2 now, and things are definitely headed in the right direction. We'll get into that more later. Our 2 venues, the arena and the theater. The theater was built in 1920, so it's just over 100 years old. The city took that over in 2006 and did some minor remodeling to kind of bring it up to code and make the theater a more inviting space. And then the arena was also built in 2006. So it's its 20th anniversary this year as well. So there's the arena. So show of hands, who in the room has been to a Bloomington Bison game? All right, we like to see that. They play 36 home games at the arena. When we have a concert, it can cut down anywhere from 2,800, what we call our theater setup, the smallest setup, to between 4,000 and 5,000. And if you push the stage all the way back and take the dashers out where the hockey glass stops and put the stage there, we can do about 7,500. Luke Combs has the building record from about 5 years ago. He had a little over 7,600 people in the building. I have counted and tried to move spaces and stages every which way to make that math work and keep up with fire code, and I cannot make it happen. So how they got 7,600 people in that building, I don't know, but we won't be able to replicate that one since we're now the city, because fire can see everything we do, and I don't want to get in trouble. So over the last few years, we've had a Yellow Card Day to Remember show, which ended up being a top 5 grossing show of all time. They're a punk rock band, Weezer, Blink-182 mix. REO Speedwagon last November on their final farewell tour. Ended up, that show came in, they had a 3,500 setup when we booked the show, meaning the stage was pushed a little bit forward. And then we kind of got lucky. Right after we signed them, they announced they were breaking up for good, and ticket sales just skyrocketed because people did finally realize this is our last chance to see them for real this time. Ended up having to push it back to a 5,000 setup, and they sold that out. We've kind of had a good mix of show. Mercy Me, which is a Christian band, which is our highest show and Christian show of all time. The one area I have just not been able to get out of Peoria is stand-up comedy for the arena. I'm a big stand-up comedy fan. There's only a few comedians that can sell an arena. Still, most of them, even the big ones, only play theaters. And we have not been able to convince Live Nation or Outback, the 2 big promoter companies that do all the traveling for comedy to come to our building yet. We've been close a couple of times, but Tom Segura is a comedian that fits our building size better than Peoria. He just hasn't come through the area yet. I think that agent will give me that show when it comes through, just because he's tired of hearing from me every 2 weeks. And that's honestly most of the gig. When we started, as far as the arena size shows, I knew nobody at Live Nation, nobody at AEG, nobody at the big promoter companies. So it's networking, going to all the conferences, driving down. Most of them have offices in Nashville, meeting with them and just staying in front of them, and then kind of selling your community is the big one here. Our venue is not as big as State Farm Center in Champaign or the Civic Center. So our selling point is, why does your show make sense? If the show is going to sell between 5,000 and 7,000 seats, our building makes the most sense. Peoria and Champaign, they don't really cut down to that number very well. It's an awkward stage placement, or it doesn't sound as good. And our community, the economy is always our big one. Our median income's higher. The people do like to come out to shows more. Country shows, comedy, Christian, we usually outsell both those towns. So that's always our selling point. And then as soon as I see a country show in Peoria that doesn't make money, I usually Live Nation rep, first thing next morning is, man, it's too bad you didn't make any money on that show. Just remember to call us next time. And we'll let you come to our building. So it kind of goes through, there's the Bison skating out for their starting lineups. That's the new addition this year to the starting lineups, is the pyro, the fire that they skate through when they come out. Great addition. Kids love it. Some adults too. I mean, who doesn't love fire? We've had to change how we did the intros after the first game. I don't know if anybody was there, but Greg Zook, who handles all the sponsorship and sales, they have a 4-wheel vehicle for the mascot that a couple local businesses have donated. He drove it out on the ice. Well, we've always practiced with him on the chopped up ice after practice before they Zambonied it. Well, before the game, obviously, it's freshly Zambonied ice that is super slick. He took it out on the ice going how he normally would when it's all chopped up, and couldn't stop, and ran right into the pyro boxes and pushed them into each other. And there's propane in there. So we told Greg, as soon as that game was over, we're like, what? We won't have you drive out anymore before intermission. You can come out after the first period and chuck your t-shirts into the stands. He was sent that video about 150 times through text message that night before the game was even over. So it was quite the office meme going around, and he hates that story, but one of my favorites to tell. A couple of our bigger events. While concerts usually get the most attention in the community, as far as economic impact goes, our 3 most vital events are IHSA dance, cheer, and girls and team wrestling. Those 3 combined events bring about $2.5 million into the local economy. A big reason for that is just heads and beds. When cheer and dance are here, there is no hotel room left in town by that weekend. We have local teams who make it as well. Dance has 96 teams, cheer has 104. So they take up every hotel room, usually from Thursday all the way through Sunday morning. So a concert, usually people are here for one night. You do get hotels out of concerts, but most of the time it's local people. So the economic impact, while strong, isn't as strong as the IHSA event. So those are great partnerships with dance, cheer, and girls and team wrestling. Between the events, they bring about 30,000 people to town as well. So those are bigger events. Those are always what we're also looking for more, especially during the summer when ice is not down at the arena, is more big group events. They put a lot of hotels to work, obviously really good for the food and beverage industry. So we have a collaboration with the visitors board. They help pay to bring in events. They'll do a lot of scouting. We'll go out, we'll try to recruit some events to come to town, because that's really where more impact is felt for the rest of the community, more so than a one-night concert, which also important, but the rentals are where the real money comes into town. The BCPA, again, we covered that, was built in 1920, and we kind of talked about how we kind of reinvented our booking strategy. Most arenas, most shows are from promoters. You don't buy a whole lot of your shows yourself. Usually a promoter will buy 12 Luke Combs concerts, and then their job is to try to make it a tour fit going around. For our first 2 years in the building, kind of being off the radar, we were having to go out and buy shows ourselves and bring them in. In 4 or 5 years, the goal is that we don't usually buy any shows ourselves. We would buy a couple, but the most of them would come from promoters. They bring them in. They know the market better. They know each artist better, and they get national deals, TV, radio, billboards, so they can get a better bang for their buck than we would as the individual venue. That wasn't really our goal at the BCPA. We wanted to book that one ourselves, being smaller, but as the venue has more success, more promoters start calling us. I think we had 12 promoter shows last year at the BCPA, and that number will continue to increase. And that's, again, it was kind of an unintended consequence of having more shows that made money. So we'll look to that model too. We'll still buy a lot of those shows ourselves because you don't need to spend as much money on marketing a BCPA show with 1,000, 1,100 seats. The budget's not quite as big, and we usually know what shows will make money. So as opposed to sharing it with the promoter, we'd rather buy that one ourselves. So tonight, Trisha Yearwood will be there. It's a sold out show, and she will break the venue record for gross sales at about $116,000 for the total sales. Does anybody know? The record was from November of last year. Does anybody know who came that broke the old venue record that Trisha Yearwood will break tonight? I'll give you a pair of tickets to a show if you can. Go ahead. No, it was not Three Dog Night. Three Dog Night didn't quite get to the record. Bachman Turner Overdrive had the record about 12 months ago, but they had it, and then John Cleese broke it when he came to the building and did a showing of Monty Python, and then this person broke it. Anybody? All right, I'll take the tickets for myself and go to a show. It was Teresa Caputo. She's the Long Island medium. She had a show on TLC. She's the one who kind of does predictions and stuff. So she obviously saw it coming that she was going to break the record when she came to the building. I'll honestly say before we book that show, I'm always like, I don't know on things like that. How do I feel when we have magicians? Everything you have to sign up a bunch of NDAs, so you can't tell the audience how things happened. With her, we signed nothing, so we knew there weren't plants in the audience. It was all legit, and there were some things that happened that just kind of make you go, I have no idea how she picked that out. Like she'd walk up an aisle, and she said something about, she was probably right here, and she's like, farmland. Who's farmland? And I was like, you're in the Midwest. Like, that's not that big of a deal. It's like, who's ever ate corn? But she's like, farmland, having trouble deciding if you should sell it. You just feel like you're having a family issue. And the lady, like, 2 in was like, my dad just passed away. None of us are really into farming. And we're trying to decide if we should sell the land or keep it in the family. We feel like we're going to be letting him down. And it went back and forth for a while. And she's like, no, your dad would be totally okay with what I'm feeling. And there's a couple others like that I was like, all right, that was pretty good. So I still don't know how I feel about it, but I was impressed anyway. So we are kind of glad that somebody broke it that wasn't a Long Island medium show. We're like, come on, we want it to be a real artist and not TV show persons. So super excited about that. I was hit up to try to bring her with me. She passed this morning. I called Garth. He also passed. But I was going to bring one of them with me today, but then I'm like, well, they're going to steal all my time and no one will want to hear from me. The BCPA, I haven't updated this for a couple of weeks. So since 2024, we've had 11 sold out shows. Before 2024, we had, the venue had 1 sold out show. So we've been pretty proud of that mark. That's Lee Bryce, a country artist who came to the venue. And that's been kind of a new thing in the industry and at our building is artists that are probably way too big to play an 1,100 seat theater have started doing a lot of these acoustic small venue shows. And Lee Bryce's show was really cool. They can tell a lot more stories. The music doesn't have to be turned up to 100 because you're in a much smaller venue. Acoustic always sounds better. And then it's kind of started a trend in the industry. Again, Trisha Yearwood could probably sell 4,000 tickets still and play the arena, but she's only playing theater. And we're the smallest theater she's playing. So she can, get a higher ticket dollar price, but the experience and then when you leave, you're like, that was kind of cool because it's so much more intimate. With only 1,100 seats, there's not a bad seat at the BCPA. And I'm not just saying that. There really isn't a bad seat. All of them you're close to the action. You can see the artist. There's no blocked views. It's a great venue for live entertainment. on the BCPA. Not that any of you, I mean, you guys must have all taken early buyouts because none of you look old enough to be retired, but we're always looking for volunteers at the BCPA too. Our usher staff there are all volunteer, short training program. You know, it's not, you know, you can be ready to go in a couple of days. So all of our volunteers there and ushers are all volunteers. So if you're interested, a bunch of things up on the website, reach out. It's a great way, especially if you're into going to shows and entertainment. You know, it's not hard work. You get to show people your seat and then you get a free show afterwards. So it's, you know, a great side gig. We do have to tell them that, you know, you can't just pick the 2 favorite shows you want all year. You do have to pick some, like Trisha Yearwood, we had to shut it off. We're like, we don't need 100 of you to show up tonight to volunteer. We capped it at 36. So just a plug there. We also have the Friends of the BCPA program. There's levels starting at $100 going up to $5,000. You can get early access to tickets to all the shows. You get a 15% discount. And then depending on where you donate at the $250 and above, you can get preferred parking right across the streets there, so you don't have to walk as far. If you've been to a sold out show and you don't have the parking, you know, you can end up, you know, especially if you go to dinner downtown, you end up parking, you know, at downtown area and have to walk away. So the preferred parking is always a plus. So it's the end of my sales pitch. All right, Bloomington Bison, second season. They have really headed in the right direction. They're one of 6 teams out of the 28 in the league that have attendance headed upward this year. The Bloomington bubble has saved us again, kind of across the entertainment industry nationwide. Since April of last year, sales are down about 12% from live sporting events, concerts. We have not seen that here at all. They are up, I think, 12% on the year. Both of our venues are up about 9%. So we haven't seen that at all. Kind of one of the big struggles, and they knew this coming in, was sponsorship and like corporate suites. And we had an honest conversation. I was like, there's a lot of companies who probably sponsored and bought suites to the old hockey team, and then 700 or 800 people would show up to the game. And so they didn't feel like they got any value, any bang for their buck. So you're going to have to kind of give them some time to put some trust in you. And they did a great job of getting out in the community. Abe and the players have gone to every PE class in McLean County. They're in every parade. They're at all the community events. They sponsor things, and they really kind of, in only 2 years, have really got themselves into the community. And coach has done a pretty good job of signing players that they know that's the gig when they get here, right? There's no prima donnas that get to stay in the locker room and don't get to come out to the post-game skate with the kids. Everybody's a part of it. And honestly, we've seen it. If players don't want to buy into that, they usually get shipped off. So he really has made them say, hey, this is a community team. You need to get in the community yourselves. So last year, we have 24 suites in the arena that get sold on a season-wide basis. They're all company-owned. You get all the hockey games, concerts, etc. Last year, we had 4 of the 24 sold. And then as of last week, this year, all 24 are now sold out for the year. So the community, I think, has seen that they're willing to invest and put money in the community. And same thing with the local businesses. They've been willing to give back as well. Season ticket holders, for the first year, it was actually strong. It was at 700, which was pretty much middle of the pack in the ECHL. This year, it climbed to 1,300 for the season. So definitely trending in the right direction. Attendance is up, sponsorships up, suites are up, kind of all those bottom dollars. So that partnership has been great. Concerts coming up. I talked about Trisha Yearwood tonight. Swan Lake. And here's another example of how we kind of changed our business model. Again, I kind of told you that dance hasn't always booked well. We booked one dance show. You know, it lost $500-600. It wasn't bad, but we're like, you know, this just isn't our model. So we've taken dance shows, but we want it to be a rental. So Swan Lake's a perfect example. They're doing a national tour, and they're just renting the building from us. So they pay all the expenses, they pay us rent, we get a portion of the ticket sales, but now all the risk's on them, and it's up to them to go out and sell tickets. And they've done it much better than we would have done it. They're close to 900 tickets on the show. It's close to $40,000. We have not seen dance numbers like that. Now Swan Lake's a big name, mind you, but you know, we've kind of let the people who know it better than we do, you handle dance. We don't know how to market dance as well as you do. You can come rent the building or bring a promoter. And Swan Lakes works great. So with some of the more artsy shows, besides for theater, We had Stomp in the building. That one was ours. But for dance or things like that, we usually try to make those a rental. Somebody come rent the building from us and you guys take care of marketing, all of that, because you have a better understanding of that. So quite a few shows coming up between the arena and the theater. At the arena, April 2nd is Keith Sweat and Genuine, old school R&B show. And then in August, we have Men at Work with Toad the Wet Sprocket, and then Goo Goo Dolls coming right after that. Goo Goo Dolls is another example of that Live Nation partnership. Our first show with them was the Yellow Card Day to Remember, and that one went really well. So they're coming back to the building. It's just continually staying with them. So they keep bringing shows back. We had Menopause 2 last year. It did really well. So we're bringing back the original Menopause the Musical October 18th. Most of our fall shows for the theater, we won't announce until we get closer to the end of April or May. But we have quite a few pretty full fall already booked, and then always looking for shows at the arena. Usually more people are like, how does the arena booking process work? So we have holds in the arena that go all the way out to 2029. Artists usually have a plan, and artists have planned farther and farther out. So sometimes you're 3 years out on an artist plan. Usually they'll put in a building. What's your weekend, Thursday through Saturday look like on September 18th through the 20th? We tell them, hey, we have all 3 dates available. We put in a hold. We usually turn in an offer. Sometimes you don't even turn in an offer. If the artist is big enough, you just hold the dates, and then they tell you if they're coming to your place or not. And then you try to sell it. And then sometimes they decide to come through the Midwest. Sometimes they don't. So at first I'm like, well, I already have 1 hold on that date. Do I really want to put 2 holds? And then the more people I got to know in the industry, the guy from Vibrant Arena in the Quad Cities, I worked with him quite a bit because we're not direct competition. And he also wanted things to not go to Peoria. So we tried to work together to get things to go, Friday there, Saturday here, and vice versa. And he was kind of the one, he's like, I've done this for 20 years. He's like, I'll put 10 holds on a Friday because you're just throwing darts. You have about a 10 to 15% hit rate. He's like, so just keep stacking holds. And then they'll, and sometimes when you stack holds, and then when I go back to an artist and say, hey, I've got somebody challenging your date. Oh, let me check back in with the agent and see if they still want to have the show. And then it kind of creates competition for that date in your building. So that's kind of the thing with big concerts. You're just constantly throwing darts. You don't hit that often, so you just throw a lot of offers. It's never going to get to a point where you're like, oh man, I had 20 offers out and they all 20 took them. I'm going to have way too many concerts at the arena. That's just not how it works. There's just not that many concerts and tours coming through. And then, it's kind of a balancing act, especially since COVID. The artists pretty much take all the ticket sales money. You're not going to really make a lot on ticket sales. Sometimes you do, but the bigger named artists, they usually take all the money. So where the real money is at is in food and beverage. That's kind of the one lifeline to arenas making money is the food and beverage portion of it. So especially the bigger country artists that come through, they'll take all the ticket sales, plus you usually have to offer them $3 to $5 on top of that for each seat you sold. But as they come into the building, a lot of them average $25 to $30 a person that comes in food and beverage. So, you sell out a show with 7,000 people, that's $210,000 that comes in. So it's, while it seems like, oh, you only get the food and beverage dollars, a lot of times that artist knows they sell their artists, they like to come in and have a good time. So they know you're going to make your money back in food and beverage. So they know they're going to take every dollar you have plus some for you to come to their building. So it's getting more and more competitive. I think it has finally peaked in the last year. Artists kept asking for more and more money. And it got to a point where they were getting told no. There's artists that went out and their whole fall was empty because every venue was like, we'll lose money at that. You can't go any higher. So we have finally seen artists start to drop that price back in. But for the first couple of years after COVID, everybody was so hungry to go do something. Artists were asking more money and the patrons were willing to pay it. And it got to a point where it just wasn't sustainable. You can't keep paying artists that haven't had a new song in 10 years more and more money. And eventually patrons, you're not going to pay $250 to go see somebody who hasn't had a song in 20 years. So most people are predicting, and it seems to head that way, that it's starting to drop. And then hopefully that means that ticket sales or ticket prices can also start to come down a little bit because they've gotten pretty high, where we try to have as many cheap seats as we can, but artists usually dictate the prices and they'll say, oh yeah, you can have $39 tickets. And, you just don't have as many to offer the people who just want to come to a show. They don't care if they're in the nosebleeds, they just want to be there. And those shows are hard, those tickets are harder and harder to come by. All right. There's our department there with Nitro from the Fuel over in Indy. Since then, they've actually moved into a brand new arena. That was the oldest venue in the US that had a hockey team. That building was 110 years old, but they just moved out of it and they moved over to Fishers, which is just outside of Indianapolis, into a new building. So that is my presentation, and happy to take any questions you have.
Do you have anything? Oh, without my ears.
Hey, Anthony. First off, congratulations for turning that arena around. I think you and your team deserve every possible pat on the back that you can get. The other thing is, does the Creativity Center fall under your purview? And can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there if it does?
Yep, it does fall under our department as well. So that's another one. When I say the Friends of the BCPA, that's also the Friends of the Creativity Center too. Their name's not in there. So that building was an old hospital. We've had a grant for it. We've redone some HVAC and some things over on that building. The original plan was probably 8 years ago, was for a full-on remodel with a black box theater. That's still in the plans. My guess is, we're kind of in the preset of a capital campaign, as we'll probably back that building way down. A lot of the things that were in that building, I just don't think are needed anymore. There was like a recording studio. You can now go to the library and it has a full-on podcast studio. So, you don't need two of those in town. The one area that we could definitely use is probably that black box theater. There's a lot of small theater groups in town who we'd love to rent them space at the BCPA in the auditorium. We just don't have enough dates for them, and the price doesn't make sense. But if we had a little 100 to 120 seat black box theater, it'd be great for local dance companies, local theaters to come have a space that they could rehearse. That's probably the portion that's, one, the most exciting about that building, but it's probably the easiest to fundraise around. And then the rest of that building will be classrooms and some office space as well. But I think the original drawings were 5. Last time I talked to Farnsworth, they were 8 million, and I'm guessing now they're probably 10 million. So I think we can probably come up with a building that's probably closer to that $5 million mark, where we already have, 20-25% of it fundraised, and then that makes that capital campaign a lot easier. We have a local art therapy. She keeps expanding. She has a for-profit and a not-for-profit part. She rents 3 of our classrooms. So part of that would be for her to get some nicer space. She'll continue to rent from us. We have a local dance company, a taekwondo, and then some local community concert band and a few others who rent the space from us as well. So they would have classroom space for them inside as on top of the black box theater. But that's the plan for that building. Again, our friends of the BCPA board, we meet tonight at 4:30. But if anybody wants to join, that's probably the next big thing, is getting a few more people on that board and kicking off that fundraiser and capital campaign. So if you're passionate about the arts, that's one of the big projects. They also help fundraise for some of the projects over at the BCPA that may not be as exciting for a one-time donor. HVAC, cracked flooring, patching the roof, things like that they help have some money to help kind of provide for some of those things. Because, again, we want to be mindful of the taxpayer dollars. So we don't want all of those things to always have to come as a capital project. So we want them to be grant funded or fundraised. So we just did a big HVAC and roof project at the BCPA. Again, 100-year-old building, it needed it, and it was all grant funded. So that's kind of our goal, is try to find more grants, and that group helps find grants and fundraise at the same time.
Hi, you talked about the arena and how you make the money from there and so forth. But what about the Center for Performing Arts? Is that the same arrangement, or is it a different scenario?
Mostly the same arrangement. We book a lot of those shows ourselves, so we're not sharing the revenue. And in that size building with the size of artists, you can usually make a little bit of money on the ticket sales itself. But same kind of thing. We also the BCPA has a ballroom underneath the theater, about 100,000 of our revenue comes in from rentals of that space, wedding, quinceañeras, birthday parties, Kiwanis pancake breakfast, things like that. That space gets rented a lot as another revenue stream that we have over there as well on top of concerts. Yeah, I saw a hand, but there. Yep, that's also another project coming, is naming rights. Grossinger Motors Arena is no longer in the area. So we had a couple of soft leads, we'll call them. Nothing has emerged, but that's next. We have some marketing materials put together. You know, not that anybody's in the room, but you know, the Busey Bank barn sounds pretty good to me. So if anybody has their checkbook with them, so yeah, that'll be one of the next projects is going out. Kind of looking for a similar deal, you know, with SEFQ at Redbird Arena. That kind of helps set the market. Had a couple of conversations. Obviously, State Farm doesn't make any sense because they have a building 45 minutes down the road already naming rights wise. So looked at a few national brands. Usually banking is usually where I think 75% of naming rights in the US are from banks. That's just where the money kind of makes sense, because if you can get enough money into your bank, it's an easier sell than anything else, or you know, a big local company. Rivian's probably just not in the financial setting right now to do any naming rights. We've had a few conversations. Ferrero is not really a naming rights company. That's not really what they're after. But I think they're going to come on board and do some like internal sponsorship things, not at the naming rights level, but still a significant give as well. So yeah, that will be next on the horizon, is going out and trying to get some naming rights for the building. Good. Yep, I'm good. I'll repeat your question if we need to.
Well, back, you had
Mhm. Yep. Yep. So another one that we've talked about. So the Hallett family, who owns the Indy Fuel, 2 years ago started the Fishers Freight, which is their indoor football team. So they like the business model so far over there. Obviously, Indianapolis, a little bigger market area than ours, but they've kind of figured out that same ticketing staff, same CEO, same CFO, and all they really need to do is hire a coach and some players. And you know, a lot of that staff, it now gives them, the seasons don't overlap a ton. So it kind of makes a good financial sense. I think if we see the growth with the Bison this year, next year, same amount of growth, I think they'll probably look at bringing football over here as well. Again, just kind of makes sense. They already have ticket staff who's doing it in this area. You know, football's super popular, and we don't, you know, they have the Colts to compete with, where we have ISU and Wesleyan, obviously, but we don't have a major pro football team in the area. So I think that's a real possibility that it comes back at some point.
I was wondering, with respect to the kids shows that you do, how you get kids to go come to, like April 3rd, we've got Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. How are you getting kids to come during the day? And
So we have a pretty good list of schools who've always come. We call them our spotlight shows. So we always, you know, send it out to every school who comes to those before. We have a pretty good every year. You know, Washington comes, Irving comes. There's a few that are out of town that come every time we have one. So they pretty much take the first show themselves. They'll pretty much fill it up. And then we partnered, just because of this one, it's Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. So we partnered with the library so that they could do a series around the author. I think it started this week. And then they bought some tickets that they could use as a giveaway as part of their program to bring it into reading. So it's mostly just reaching out to principals and teachers that we know who've come before, and then just kind of putting in an all call out to the area. April 3rd was one of those ones. It's the date they were coming through, and we're like, oh, it's Good Friday, but a lot of the schools were in. But we also thought, well, you also have parents who might be home with their kid too, who can come to that second show, not in a school, but just on their own in general. So fell on a weird date, but it ended up working pretty well. The 10:30 show is almost full. And then the second one's it's doing okay. And usually those shows come with a much, much smaller price tag. And then there's a lot of grants you can get for kid shows, usually to try to keep the prices affordable. So our goal is when we have kid shows to keep everything under $10, because we don't want a school to not be able to come, as price being a barrier to entry. So either grants or sponsorships, but that's generally what we do, is just reach out to the same schools and teachers who kind of keep it on their radar that that's going to be their spring field trip. But so Saturdays on the square this year is going to get a little convoluted, but usually that's Rory at the Castle Theater. They book some of those because usually kind of the deal is they'll come play Saturdays on the square and then they'll come back in the winter and play a concert in his building. There's the one that we're going to do on June 6th. That's kind of a collaboration because that's part of our Route 66 100-year party. So we kind of all teamed up on that one to make it a little bit bigger. If anybody, the marketing's coming out. I'm also on the Visitors Bureau board. But June 6th and 7th is going to be McLean County's Route 66 party for the 100th year anniversary. So kind of one of our ideas was to do a decades party from when the road started and go from the north to the south. So you'll start in Chenoa in the 1920s and get down to Shirley in the 1980s as you move through the town. So there'll be parties all day Saturday and Sunday. Each community will basically get their own 3 or 4 hour window, and they're kind of doing their own thing as a way to kind of try to bring, people back to Route 66. I think they're estimating like $2 billion in tourism off the 100th year anniversary of Route 66. So the party starts at Chenoa around breakfast time. There'll be car shows in every town. So ours is a big 60s themed party on the square. Normal's going to do Sunday morning, a 1950s sock hop type thing. So marketing will be coming out soon, but hold that weekend. There'll be a lot of fun. And then most of it's going to be $0 to go to. So a fun weekend, and that's kind of our weekend party. Will be the June 6th and 7th weekend. And then the first Fridays on the lawn at the BCPA, we do all those. So those are either $5, or if you go out to eat, go to Coffee Hound, grab a piece of art downtown that day and bring us your receipt, we'll let you in for free. So, local cover bands, couple, or an up and coming artist, usually they'll just do it on the lawn as something to do on a Friday night. So those are June, July, and August, first Fridays, same deal as last year. Bring us a receipt, or it's only $5 to get in. Yeah, I think that'll add a lot of, just kind of an updated look, making parking and traffic flow a lot easier and safer. And there's a little ring structure in the 600 block at the far north end. That'd be a fun place to, go, grab a beer, a soda next door and be able to listen to an artist play out there on Friday, Saturday nights. That's become a bigger thing to do in a lot of downtown areas. It's great free hangout spaces, for lack of a better term, that are nice, clean, that you can go kind of enjoy yourself. And, if you can't afford to go pay for an artist, you've got a local artist, and it just kind of makes it a field that's not just college kids at 10 p.m. going to drink. Everybody can go downtown and the 600 block is pretty much done. They're on the 500 block now, pretty much on schedule. So I think everybody's excited, especially the business owners down there, to kind of see how it ends up. While they're doing your block, I'm sure it's tough. I know Brass Pig, the 600 block, it was hard to get to them, because everything's blocked up in front of them. So, I think he said it best. He's like, temporary pain for long-term gain. He's like, I'll be so much busier after this that it's worth it. But I'm sure those 4 months are tough on the bottom line.
Well, did Anthony run the clock?
Thank you very much. Before we adjourn, I have several announcements. First of all, when Kimberly was talking about all of the group trips, she is working on trying to do what maybe you might call a pre-trip with information about it, so you can decide if you want to go on the trip. She's just not quite ready to release the details of that yet. So we will be publicizing it when she is. Our next meeting is May 28th. It'll be here at 10 a.m. We are going to have 2 speakers from State Farm. Actually, I guess it's 3 speakers, 2 areas. But the first one is Ventures which that was an area that didn't even exist when I retired. I'm reading from their website. Their goal is to empower innovative companies to create a better future for all of us. Their goal is to find better ways to meet the needs of our incredibly diverse customer base. So they invest in companies that disrupt conventional modes of operation to help each of us live smarter and safer lives. So that'll be interesting to see what they're doing. And then the other group that's going to be here, we're all familiar with, it's the credit union. And they are celebrating 90 years. And they are titling their topic as 90 Years with History, Highlights, and Helpful Hints for Navigating the Credit Union. So that'll be good to attend. The company has an enterprise-wide peanut butter collection in April. So their goal is to raise 35,000 pounds of peanut butter that the Midwest Food Bank will be donating. And we will have some information out on that. It's already on the website. We'll put it in our newsletter, but it's all an online donation. So you don't have to actually go out and shop. They're able to purchase the peanut butter at a bulk rate. So they get more than if we were just out there shopping on our own. We still do have 6 more tours of the Good Neighbor Museum if you have an interest in doing that. The dates are April 3rd, April 27th, and May 1st. There's 2 tours each day. You do need to sign up, like enrollment closes 2 weeks in advance, but that's a very worthwhile tour. They did a good job of mixing the changes that we've seen in the company with incorporating pictures, and it's quite fun to see if you recognize any of your coworkers, and even more fun if somebody's like, oh, that's my picture. So you might consider that. Another thing that we're not ready to provide details on is social. We decided that we're going to have one this summer, and we're trying to just figure out what the venue is. So watch for that. We hope to see a lot of people there. Last up, how many of you are familiar with Donnie B's popcorn? Probably had it. Have you been to the shop on Towanda Avenue? Well, the committee had the opportunity to tour that in February. So we got to see how popcorn is made, and the different flavors added in. And we also got to taste, which was quite fun. And in addition to popcorn, he's got hard to find candies and sodas. So it's quite a cute little shop, fun to go to. And we were trying to decide if a tour would be something that would be of interest to retirees. It would probably be from 10 to 11, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And just show of hands, how many people might be interested in doing that? Okay, so we could set up something, and we'll probably set up one and see how it goes. And then, we'll have a wait list so we can decide if we need to have more. Okay. So again, thank you all very much. Appreciate you coming out and joining us today. We'll see you next time.